Hola a todos, espero que se esté escuchando bien. ¿Me confirman? ¿Alguien ahí por el chat?
Sí, ahí escucho mi feedback. Muy bien, bienvenidos. Este es el primer evento en muchísimo tiempo de existencia de la comunidad de Angular Colombia en donde hacemos un encuentro virtual. Como saben, la mayoría nos reunimos mes a mes presencialmente, de forma física. En lo personal, no es que me guste mucho hacer eventos virtuales porque básicamente no les puedo ver la cara. No puedo ver si están entendiendo, si es claro lo que les estoy diciendo o el speaker en general les está diciendo. Me parece que falta ese detallito de interacción. Pero, por otra parte, las personas que pueden llegar a los eventos no son tantas. Muchos de ustedes tienen que trabajar hasta tarde o trabajan en un punto que queda muy alejado de donde vamos a realizar el evento. Estudian, tienen obligaciones con su familia, etcétera. Entonces también entiendo que de esta forma podemos llegar a más personas eh, que en algún momento no han podido participar. Entonces, bueno, vamos a hacer este experimento. Por ahora vamos a intentar hacer un evento virtual de vez en cuando. Depende de ustedes, si a ustedes les ocurre algún tema que quieran compartir, entonces pues muy bien, bienvenidos para que vengan y compartan con nosotros. Los eventos presenciales siguen, se mantienen, no se preocupen, esto continúa. Para este mes no me fue posible hacerlo por diferentes motivos, muchas otras responsabilidades con otras comunidades, pero bueno, espero para el próximo mes traer todo el conocimiento que pueda del Google I.O. para compartir con ustedes. Esa introducción se suponía que duraba 5 minutos, duró 2. Entonces, creo que de una vez voy a hacer la introducción a la presentación a Chris. Chris, como bueno, ya se presentará, ya les comentará muy bien de qué se trata su charla y quién es él y qué ha hecho en la vida. Pero básicamente él hace parte de la empresa que nos está patrocinando desde hace unos cuantos meses. Gracias a ellos hemos podido resurgir y hacer eventos de mejor calidad. Es la empresa East Coast Product. Seguramente algunos de ustedes ya vieron, ya reconocen ese nombre, ya vieron el logo ubicado en nuestro sitio de Meetup y en el grupo de Facebook, porque ellos están necesitando desarrolladores JavaScript muy buen nivel. Y bueno, Chris nos va a venir a contar cómo hace uno para convertirse en un desarrollador JavaScript de buen nivel, cómo aprender JavaScript de la mejor forma y cómo llevar de la mejor forma ese proceso de aprendizaje en este mundo tan diverso, tan complejo en ciertos puntos, tan fácil de llegar a él, pero tan difícil de avanzar y de verdad convertirse en un muy buen desarrollador. Sé que Chris entiende algo de español, entonces ya estoy llegando al punto en el que te dejo la conversación para que continúes. Por favor, usen el chat para dejar sus preguntas, yo estaré ahí súper pendiente. Tengo ahí un par de personas también, miembros de la comunidad, que van a estar colaborándonos, moderando y estando pendientes de sus preguntas. Vayan dejándolas cuando las tengan, cuando les aparezcan. Chris nos va a hablar en inglés, sin embargo ustedes pueden hacer sus preguntas en español sin ningún problema. Nos encargamos de traducirlas para que él pueda responderlas. Entonces, sin más, los dejo con Chris.
Hello, do you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Diego. I didn't know anything that you just said. I just heard my name, so I think it's time for me to start. So thank you very much for having me, and I'll do my best to speak slowly. But if I start getting excited or passionate, I usually start speaking faster. So please let me know if I start speaking too fast. But what I will do is I'm going to share my screen right now. And there we go. I think, does everybody see it correctly?
Yes, we can see it.
Wonderful. So how many people are listening? Is that something you can see right now, Diego? We have like 5 people, or we have like 100,000?
me check.
Just curious. Just see how many people are actually listening to me.
Not so many right now. Around
Right.
10 people. They're
Well,
joining.
hello. Well, hello, everybody. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. This is going to be a pretty short presentation, and I'm really hoping that people are going to ask a lot of questions. And feel free to treat this as a AMA and ask me anything. I'll do my best to answer. And even if I can't answer, I probably will be able to follow up. But really, this talk is about overall working with JavaScript and why invest in JavaScript and why is it important, and just a good talk overall. So go ahead and dive in. Actually, wait. Sorry here. So JavaScript for self-directed learners. We'll start. We're going to talk about me. We're going to talk about my company, East Coast Products. We're talking about why invest in JavaScript, the concepts to actually master, what I see as the different levels of mastery, how to progress and how to actually keep going, and some next steps, and then will be the Q&A. So starting off, that is me without a beard, as you can see with when I first started. I have a beard now, but first thing here is I'm a self-taught developer. I started developing when I was 12 years old. I literally taught myself how to program when I was handed a garage sale computer that had MS-DOS on it. And I literally went through and typed every single command in every single folder and just to see what happened. One of those commands was a command called basic, which was a quick basic. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with quick basic, but this is a very simple Microsoft language that I cracked it open, and luckily it came with two programs. One was called Nibbles and one was called Gorillas. And I taught myself how to code by just reading line by line and modified it and see how bad I broke it. And that's how I got my start. I went through, I didn't grow up in a family of computer scientists. I grew up in pretty much a blue collar family. So pretty much from the point where I turned the computer on, I knew the most about computers at that point. So I went through, like I said, it was start when I was 12. By the time I graduated high school, I did go to college as soon as actually I left high school. But after going for a year, I found that it was a complete waste of my time, because I had about 6 years of experience developing, and doing a hello world in Java didn't feel like it was a good use of my time. So that's when I actually started my career. That's actually about 18 years ago, year 2000, when I started my career. I started as a software engineer at a insurance company here in the United States. I did that for about 7 years. Then I moved over to Boston University, worked there for about a year and some change. And then I decided I was sick of the large company and the slow moving of a big university, and I was ready for the startup world. I made the jump over to the startup, and I instantly started being promoted. I ended up being the head of R&D by the end of my 2 years there, and the company was acquired. Built a lot of great product, met a lot of great people. Moved over to another startup as the CTO. Built up that team, built up that product, and then that company was acquired. Then I founded East Coast Product in 2014. It's a company that focuses on JavaScript as our main tech stack. But the whole goal is to actually be more collaborative with our customers. So that's rather than receive a checklist and get that done, we really wanted to work with them. And that morphed over time, that we found that it was really hard to differentiate yourself as a traditional agency, because everybody out there that works at a traditional agency really just, all they can really say is like, we're the best. But that is really what everybody's saying. And what you have to do is you have to create trust And really the best way to create trust is if you create a relationship, and at that point, you don't need to actually have it, because then they already trust you, or you don't need to convince them that you're the best because they already trust you. So that was really confusing me. It's like, okay, there's really no way to differentiate. But so I started listening to my customers and found that what really people need is not necessarily someone to take over their coding. What they need is they needed somebody they needed expert developers. They need people to integrate into their team and just be part of the team and do great things. So that's really what East Coast Product is there. And then I also mentor at Harvard Business School, which is a pretty good business school here in Massachusetts. I mentor at Resilient Coders, which is a nonprofit that teaches underrepresented kids not really kids, but people how to code. And then I also mentor at a accelerator called Techstars. I said a little about East Coast Product already, but here's like the brief. But you can just go to our website, and if you want to learn more about it. But we're a design development company based in Boston, Massachusetts. We specialize in staff augmentation, like I was telling you about, and JavaScript is our primary tech stack. So that's about East Coast Product. Now let's get into like the part where you're all waiting for. Why invest in JavaScript? Well, that's a great question. As you can see on this graph, it is by far the most popular language out there right now. And the reason for that is a couple reasons. Well, number one, it's in the browser. It's in every single browser. So if you ever want to do any type of front-end client-side functionality for the web, you're writing in JavaScript. Now, so there's that, but there's also Node on the back end. Node is the backend server technology for JavaScript as well. So you can write a full stack JavaScript application and make amazing applications. So you can do front end, back end, and more recently, React Native, which is an amazing transpiler that allows you to write native applications, mobile native applications in JavaScript as well. So JavaScript is really kind of eating the world, and it's amazing. So it allows you to learn one language and be able to use it in multiple different places. So invest in JavaScript. It's important. So what does it mean to actually be good at JavaScript? One of the main problems that I've seen is that because JavaScript's been so long and around so long, and web development has been around for so long, that saying that you need a JavaScript developer really it's difficult to say. You get a lot of different people. You have people that have been building websites for 10 years and have used jQuery to animate clicks of a button. And then you have people that on the other side that have utilized Node to write embedded code on IoT devices. So there's a huge gap in between, and that some people are a little bit more about jQuery. But what is important to actually to master when it comes to being a good JavaScript developer? So these are 4 questions that I ask in in the tech portion, or the verbal tech portion of my interviews. And I want to, these are not all of them, but these are some of them. So can I kind of give you an idea of really what to expect when someone's actually looking for a front end engineer? Starting off is, what is a closure? It's the very first question I always ask, because I know it sets the tone for the rest of the questions. But second one is, what are 2 programming paradigms that are important for JavaScript developers? The 2 top ones that a lot of people say are both functional programming and object-oriented programming. And then which leads into the next question is, what is actually functional programming? Actually, all my mentees right now, I'm having them go through and writing articles about what functional programming is, because understanding what a pure function is and how to properly use higher order functions, and staying away from, as you can see in the next question, classical inheritance, and how to properly use prototypal inheritance and function composition and things of that sort is super important, especially when you're dealing with React or the more modern frameworks. So like I said, these are the type of concepts to master. Now, the main thing is I keep saying like mastery, because experience does not equal mastery. I've seen developers that have been developing for a year, and they've been able to program circles around me, fully be able to build entire React applications utilizing pure functions and just the very slick functional programming. And then I've met people that have been developing, I'm doing air quotes, developing for the last 15 years with JavaScript, and they utilize jQuery to do AJAX calls and move a HTML object from one side of the screen to the other. So it really matters of how much you actually invest in truly mastering JavaScript. And it's very important to fully understand what the language, how the language works, how it's parsed, fall in love with it to fully understand and be a good engineer. So these are the different general levels of mastery that I see. There's a lot of text on this page, so I apologize for that. Try not to put a lot of text on the page, but I divide it into 4 different sections. The junior, understands the basics of web development, can execute with guidance, and able to articulate basic technical challenges, blah, 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 blah. Main thing is that you're able to work with guidance and not have much, but still be able to understand what functional programming is. Mid-level, you have the ability to actually understand understand web development in a more deep way, but you're able to actually instruct others on a few topics, not maybe every single thing, but be able to really explain the best way to use function composition. You don't need to really fully master JavaScript at this point, but you should be able to do a pretty good job of answering a junior's question. And mid-level can perform independently, so that you don't need to actually check in with them every single day. A senior is really they get it. They fully understand the ins and outs of the language. They can instruct others on multiple development topics, and they are actually an expert in at least one specialty, so that they can actually give talks on when to use what's the best things about functional programming, and what's the best things about object-oriented programming, and when would you use one over the other, and just be able to actually give full talks about that. And of course, the last thing with the seniors, they have the ability to lead an entire team. So not only are that as a manager, I don't need to actually guide them. I can give them very high level goals, and they can actually direct an entire team to accomplish those. And then finally, it's the architect. Now, an architect is a full understanding of the entire application at an expert level. They have the best idea of how to build an application from fully optimized and something that is scalable and knows how to build things without actually many bugs. They have an amazing job communicating. They're the ones actually setting goals, high level goals to accomplish. They have the entire understanding both the front and back, so they know how to actually work together. So the architect is like the epitome of the top level knowledge. So those are the general levels of mastery. Of course, there's it's not black and white, and there's gray in between, but that's the general levels. So how do you get started? Now, this is the extra curriculum that I created for all my mentees to go through. I like it because, number one, it doesn't require any buying of anything. You don't need to buy books. You don't need to buy classes. You don't need to do anything. Every one of these people provide the material for free. You can buy it, like you can buy the book of Eloquent JavaScript. You can buy the book series You Don't Know JavaScript. But if not, you can actually just go to the website and go through this. And if you make it through all of these, I guarantee you'll find a front-end job. It's hard. I will say that even Eloquent JavaScript is I like to say it's like my entry level weeding out course. If you can make it through Eloquent JavaScript without quitting, you'll make it through the rest. And it's a great entry level book to get you up and going. And you don't know if JavaScript allows you to dive a little bit deeper. Like it talks about scope in a much better way of understanding what the keyword this does. It's how it's parsed, how JavaScript itself is parsed, how coercion works. It's a very great book series, and then also at the very end starts digging into ES6. And the final book is really for when people want to stretch their functional legs. And the author of the book is actually an amazing at utilizing real world examples to teach you how to be a better functional JavaScript developer. So that's the steps along the way. And then Eric Elliott is my favorite person to follow as far as their Twitter, their Medium posts. He just actually wrote an article, kind of a tongue-in-cheek article of how to avoid functional programming in JavaScript, which number one is a fun to read. Number two, it really helps you fully grasp how you're already writing in a functional way. You just don't know it, and I liked it a lot. So how do you actually get hired? So after you actually read that, how do you convince a manager to hire you? Number one, build out your portfolio. Obviously, make sure that you have a website you can actually show the work. You should have a link to the code, and you should have a link to the actual page working or the application working. I'd recommend strongly hosting them yourselves, so that if this is client work, they can at times, if they do change it, make sure that you remove it so that that your portfolio is always up to date. And the second thing is commit to GitHub regularly. That's one of the things that a lot of managers will do is they'll look at your GitHub repository. I'll see how many green squares that you commit. So have you been committing for the last month? Have you been committing for over a year? What repositories are you actually committing to? Have you been actually pushing to code that is very popular? Like, have you modified code on jQuery? Have you done anything with the React? If you've done anything, any major popular repositories, that's a huge plus. Now, it might sound a little scary to make commits to those big things, but really what I always recommend doing is on your first one, just make the documentation better. Pretty much every open source repository out there needs better documentation. So learn the actual code base as best you can, and then make the documentation better. And that will be your first your commit to that repository. And it's a good way to start, and everybody will love you for it because nobody wants to spend their time writing documentation. And that's a great place to start. Participate at local meetups. Make sure that nominate yourself or ask to actually give talks, because doing this is very important to get your name out, build out your personal brand. Try to actually do a talk where they're recording it. Throw that on your portfolio. It's great. Even if you do it in Spanish, still do it to show that you are giving talks. I'm talking like more for if you're actually working with English-speaking countries, but just put up your talks there. And like I remember, because I'm going through the hiring process right now, and interviewed somebody, and I was very impressed because he had, I think, 4 or 5 talks that he did. I couldn't understand any of them, but from the actual comments and the upvotes and everything of that sort, other people liked it, so that's good. And then give back to the community. It's the main thing is that's even if you didn't have anybody to help you, harness that feeling of like, okay, well, let me give back and let me help somebody else, because it'll do 2 things. It'll make you feel better, but it'll also like reinforce your own knowledge. Like the best way to learn anything is to teach somebody. So try to actually teach somebody something, even if it's your mom or dad, of how to build a web page. Do it. So next steps. Really stay in touch. I'm pretty easy to talk to. I love talking to a lot of everybody. Love helping people. As you can see, I mentor a lot because I mentioned earlier, is I started myself when I was 12, and I had nobody. I had actually figured everything out myself. So I've got a kind of a, a spot in my heart that I'm filling by helping as many people as I possibly can, because I don't want many people to go through that. You can find us on Facebook. We are actually hiring, as always. If you're interested in working with us and you like what I say and you are a senior JavaScript developer, or if you're at least close to being a senior JavaScript developer, maybe you need a little help, you can always go to eastcoastproc.com to apply. We'll be glad to take your application and kind of get to know you. But I believe that's it. So please ask questions. I don't know how many people are here now, but if there's 10 people, I should have 10 questions.
Okay, let's wait for the questions.
Wonderful. Are they going to come in the group chat?
We're using the YouTube chat, so I'll redirect the questions for you.
Wonderful.
Let's give him just 1 minute.
I'll let them see my face so that know that I'm actually friendly.
Okay, we have one question.
Excellent.
Functional programming using JavaScript.
Yes.
Is that related to what kind of mastery level?
Junior.
Okay,
so like
you should start with functional programming.
So my mentees that I'm actually teaching right now, I am teaching them all functional programming in JavaScript, because it's very important to fully grasp functional programming to be a good developer, and JavaScript really shines when you utilize it in a functional way. So I would say that so those questions that you saw, like what is a closure, what are the explain functional programming, I asked those questions to juniors.
Okay, so you should start with that. What's your opinion of the inclusion of the class inheritance in the form of the class reserved for the recent ECMAScript specification? So, what do you think about the class?
JavaScript is doing what JavaScript does best, is try to include everybody, and that's really, class is just sugar over actually doing it the right way. So I'm okay with it. You don't need to use it though. So yeah, I'm old. I got off my soapbox a long time ago. Certainly what I think. If you talk to me maybe like 10 years ago, I would be shaking my cane and saying how JavaScript's the best thing in the world, and I can't believe that they're ruining it. But at the same time, it's all about the right tool for the right time. And what I actually recommend doing is Eric Elliott does a lot of really good articles about like when to use classical inheritance over prototypal inheritance and things of that sort. And he does a great job and much better explanation of what I could do with that. So I would direct you to that to fully understand, I guess, my opinion about just attempting to make JavaScript more object-oriented.
Cool. I have one.
You got a question, Diego?
Yes. Have you heard about Elm?
I have heard about Elm.
What do you think about it?
I don't. I don't have, actually. I haven't used it ever, and I don't really have a opinion on it. The JavaScript itself has always actually done well for me. I don't even like TypeScript itself is okay. And I don't hate anybody for using TypeScript. I know a lot of very, very smart people that utilize TypeScript, but you know, a strongly typed JavaScript is not something that I personally require, but I do know that it helps a lot of people, and it helps a lot of people with much bigger code bases. But yeah, same thing with Elm. Was like you could do some really cool stuff with it. I personally haven't actually dove into it. Same reason why I've never dove into Ruby. It's 2018, so about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I discovered Python, and I describe Python as my first love. we separated a while ago, but was my first love. And because I had Python, there was really no reason for me to learn Ruby, because Python did everything that I needed that Ruby could do. So why learn Ruby? Nothing wrong with Ruby. A lot of good people do. They just, different things. And the same thing with like Elm and TypeScript and, CoffeeScript was big back in the day. I never touched CoffeeScript because why? I don't know. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I've never touched any CoffeeScript code either. I have used TypeScript with Angular mainly,
Yeah.
but also with some other projects like writing Node code with TypeScript. You mentioned with bigger code bases, and I also think with bigger teams, it's really helpful because it helps you standardize your JavaScript code. On the Elm side of things, I can tell you I've been using Elm for the last month and a half, and I hate it. Hate it.
You hate it.
I hate it totally. I completely
Wow.
hate. It's not like TypeScript. It's an abstraction of everything. You actually write your HTML from Elm with the Elm syntax.
That's
So
gross.
you don't have access to any DOM APIs directly.
Is it like JSX, or is it worse than JSX?
I can tell you that I haven't used JSX.
Okay.
But you cannot use any DOM API, any window object, nothing. You need to go through Elm itself for everything that you need.
Gotcha.
You can actually create ports that let you communicate with your JavaScript code, but that's not common. You need to use the Elm side of things. So it's horrible.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Well,
yeah.
I hope you don't have to do that anymore. Because it's very important to be a happy developer. Very much so.
So that's been my first attempt at functional programming. I don't think I can recommend that to people to do functional front-end code. So what can you recommend? If I say don't use Elm, what can you tell us to do?
You can write React in a very functional way. You can write pure functions in your React and utilize. I mean, you can do functional programming in JavaScript. That's the book Functional Light that I linked. I'll go back. I'll share this again. You don't have to see my face. Just a second. This book, Functional Light, by Kyle Simpson, I believe his name is. I actually met him. He's a great guy. Very nice. When he took a trip to Boston once. But the Functional Light book, it explains how to use functional programming in the real world. If you care a lot about functional programming, I mean, JavaScript is not by far the best language to do functional programming. I would recommend looking into either OCaml or Haskell or Lisp. But this is a front-end web development meetup, so that's JavaScript is the best way to go. So one of my projects that we're working on right now is a blockchain company, and we're utilizing OCaml, and it's in a very functional way. So yeah, there's functional programming is the future. A lot of like the major computer science universities like Harvard, Northeastern, a lot of the schools around here are teaching functional programming first rather than object-oriented programming first, because it really is the future.
Okay, cool. I think we will need a future talk on functional programming, how to start with it, and general concepts for the future.
Sounds good. I mean, the good news is that like this curriculum that I put up here it teaches you JavaScript in the functional way. It's very good at teaching you exactly how to utilize closures, how to utilize higher order functions, how to write pure functions, how to do, a lot of things like that. So follow this curriculum, and if somebody finishes this, they would be able to actually give that talk. I can promise you that.
Great.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, we have a couple more.
Wonderful.
Do you think it's necessary to first understand vanilla JavaScript and then go ahead and start working or learning JavaScript framework, or can you go like a little bit of vanilla, then a little bit of framework, and along the way?
It depends. It depends. As like the typical computer science answer, it depends. If you want my true gut feeling, is yes, 100%. If you want, because it really depends on your goal, though. Is your goal to be the best developer that you possibly can be? Learn vanilla JavaScript. As you can see here in my curriculum, we don't talk about any frameworks, and this will take you at least probably four months of study to get through all of these. So as you can see, my curriculum is built is learn vanilla JavaScript first, and then learn the actual frameworks. That being said, if your goal is to actually make money, there's like, you won't be hired as a React developer if you've never developed React before. So it's one of those things where, like, if I were to do it, I would follow this. All of my mentees follow this. This is the thing that I care about, because I care about having the best developers. Because one of the things that you'll find is if you jump into a framework too soon, you won't understand the concepts of good JavaScript, and you will do things incorrectly, and you'll learn bad development. And you'll have to relearn how to do it correctly, which is much harder. I'm a big fan of investing a lot up front to do it, to build a strong foundation, and to be able to actually grow faster later in the right way.
Great. I think that's a great answer. We have one last question, I think. That's what do you think about async and await?
What was the question?
What do you think about async and await?
Oh, async and await. You know, like, I don't really actually have much of a problem, or I actually thought about async and await. Because I like, full disclosure, I haven't actually coded myself for the last 8 years. I study and I keep things up, and I don't really actually have a problem, or actually have a good answer with the async and await. So I don't know. Diego, do you have an answer?
Makes your code more readable somehow. For if you're used to promises and your team is used to reading promises code, it will look really weird at first, but then when you get used to saying just one line or 2 lines of code, it could be cleaner for you. But I think it's just sugar, syntactic sugar, on top of what we have right now. So yeah, I haven't tried it actually in production.
What's your opinion on generators and iterators?
They look really cool. Yeah, they do. But I was actually thinking about that today, about an actual real world case, a scenario where I could use those.
I mean, if you want to actually a good example on how to use them right, just look at the Koa architecture. That's like, the entire thing is built on middleware, and they use asyncs, or not asyncs, yields and generators and everything to build the entire flow. So actually, the Koa is, now that Node is finally caught up to be able, that the Harmony package has been built in. I actually suggest backend developers use Koa over Express now.
Yeah, I heard that a couple of years ago, but I didn't actually find any differences, basic differences, that I could say, yeah, let's move on from Express to Koa. But yeah, can you mention any other differences or features?
I mean, it's really a different paradigm. It's built around like the middleware, and being able to actually the entire workflow. The problem with it that 2 years ago is you needed to actually run Node with a special tag to, I believe it was called Harmony, to make sure that could even run. You don't have to do that anymore. Node has finally caught up. And I think Node 10 was just announced. Was it today? Or was it released today?
Sure.
So the language is like caught up. It's a much more modular and lightweight framework than what Express is, and you can modify it a lot more. So I'd recommend everybody out there to test it, build a simple app, build a to-do app, to-do list, and just to test it out.
Sure, for sure, I will. And yeah, it was released today, announced today.
Yeah.
Note 10.
And NPM 6 was also, I think, announced today. Which is also exciting.
Yeah, we're moving so fast.
So fast, so fast.
So
So is anybody actually, so that, like the questions so far were like around JavaScript and things of that sort. Is there any questions about working with American companies? Is there any interest with people working with American companies on best how to do that or anything of that sort? Because when I said earlier, ask me anything. I might tell you I'm not going to answer it, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
I think a lot of people will be interested in the process, how to get a job with an American company, and maybe some of the cultural differences that you have found in the process with working with people from Latin America. I know for sure there are.
There are, and it really depends on what country in Latin America as well. I spent a lot of time working with developers in Bolivia. I spent like a year and a half working with Bolivian developers. So I can speak mostly for like Bolivian. Is that it was much more of actually like laid back than what was actually being experienced in the, like, as far as actually the culture of the United States. I can just like talk more about like the culture of the United States of like decision making and things of that sort, and you can tell me how it would be actually different in your experience. But one of the things that is really key that I found in Harvard Business Review, which is a great newspaper up here, not a newspaper, like online newspaper thing, did an entire study about different cultures or different management styles in different parts of the world. One of the things with that you need to understand, and with American companies, and I'm generalizing, of course, but so did they. So if they did, I can. But the decision making process. How is a decision made? So in the United States, when a decision has to happen, the manager will go and collect input from their team and get all of the information, and then they will make the decision. In Europe, for example, like in Denmark, it's when a decision is being made, the manager will go to the everybody in their team, and then they'll discuss it, and then they'll make a decision together. In the definition they made in Russia and China was if a decision was actually to be made, the manager makes the decision, and it's not very a collaborative type of thing. And in Japan, the description was when a manager needs to make a decision, they will hold a meeting, and before the meeting happens, the manager will go to every team member before the meeting and get their opinion, and then at the meeting, the manager will make the decision. So those are like the 4 different kind of quadrants. I forget actually what they said in South America, but I mean, you guys know your culture there, and I don't know which one you relate to the most. But it's just one of those things where you have to understand that if it doesn't match up with the whole, there's a decision maker. It's not, don't take offense to it. It's just like, that's just the culture is of like, there's a decision maker, and they take in all the information, and then they'll make a decision. And they also, the other thing too, is that with the United States is that decisions can change frequently. They're not stuck in stone. So that's why we believe that our way works, is that the decision maker will make the best guess of which way direction to go, and if they're wrong, they'll just change it. And so that's kind of like the mentality. Does that match with Diego with what you've seen?
Well, as you mentioned, it could be different from country to country, it's from city to city.
Exactly.
So I can say I really liked the Japanese way you mentioned, where everyone is involved in the decision-making process. Everyone's opinion is taken into account. I like that.
Yeah.
I wish we could be more like that in a personal level, of course.
Sure.
How does it work in the East Coast product?
How does what work in East Coast product?
The decision-making process, is it made by the company, by East Coast product, or by the client itself, or did you advise the client?
Right. So how it works is we work with the clients, we consult with the clients to help make the best decisions. What that actually means is that before we actually put any people, any developers, any people and part of that company, we make sure that the process is sound, that things are actually good. When it comes to actually decision making, the client is the clients. They're the one paying the money. So at the end of the day, their decision is what flies. But that doesn't mean that if it's such a horrible decision, it doesn't mean that we still have to be their client. That's the kind of mindset. But it's one of those things where it's more collaborative. It's they are bringing us in because they want more than just an outsourced person. They want actually a team that is in it, that has a lot of different opinions, a lot of different experience to help them make the right decision. So I've never really had a bad experience. Pretty much every single of my clients ever, they brought us on and paid a higher premium because they want to be consulted with decisions. So that's my experience, at least.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Do you have any other open positions for JavaScript developers?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I said, let's see, where is it? ESP is hiring senior JavaScript developers.
Okay, senior level.
Senior level or close to it. I mean, if you're close to it, maybe I'll make an exception if you're very values driven and your values match ours.
Great. So, do you have any other questions? So
I hope everybody enjoyed it. How many people? How many people? What was the peak viewer?
I don't have the number right now. Maybe 15. Wasn't many people. I was expecting actually twice that at least, but well, it's recorded, so people will check it out later.
Wonderful. Well, for all the people that watch the recording, you too can email me if you'd like. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Diego. I think I'll probably do another talk at some point, but I will talk to you all later.
Yeah, we will talk about that, and for sure, people should expect more from you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Gracias a todos por conectarse. Me cuentan qué tal les pareció. Si les parece que deberíamos tener una charla virtual cada cierto tiempo. ¿Qué tal les parece tener un speaker en inglés? ¿Les parece bien? Más bien en español, mezcladito, o un speaker, 2 speakers, 3 speakers, charlas cortas, charlas largas, live coding, ideas. ¿Qué se les ocurre? Esto es de ustedes. Díganme qué quieren y hacemos lo posible por cumplir con lo que ustedes quieren, lo que necesitan. Gracias por conectarse. Gracias por ver lo que quedó grabado. Nos veremos en la próxima.